What is going on with Sheryl Swoopes? She's fighting with everybody over Caitlin Clark. I don't think Caitlin Clark has said anything bad about Sheryl Swoopes. So here's some context. So I was watching Nightcap with Ocho Cinco and Shannon Sharp, one of my favorite podcasts. And they was reacting to Nancy Lieberman, another great female basketball player of all time. Currently one of the two female coaches for the Big Three, Ice Cube's Big Three. So whenever people are ripping Ice Cube, it's like, well, at least he has two female coaches. It's Nancy and Lisa Leslie. And last time I checked, the NBA doesn't have any. So there's that. He's such a bad guy. But that's another video. So I was watching Nightcap, and they were reacting to Nancy Lieberman being on Stephen A. Smith's show. And that was because Stephen A. Smith had gotten into it with Sheryl Swoopes. Because he was basically saying, like, he doesn't understand why Sheryl Swoopes has been all over Caitlin Clark. Like Caitlin Clark's a scrub. And Sheryl went on X and took it personal to Stephen A. And Stephen A. talked about it on his podcast, and then he brought in Nancy Lieberman. He brought in Nancy Lieberman because Nancy Lieberman and Sheryl Swoopes were friends. And I guess like last year, during Caitlin's last year in college, Sheryl Swoopes was spitting out these facts about Caitlin Clark that wasn't true. And Nancy heard the podcast, and she called Sheryl and said, hey, like, if you don't like Caitlin, that's fine, but make sure it's factual. And I guess they argued. And then Women's March Madness in March, I guess Nancy saw Sheryl and went to talk to her, and Sheryl went and talked to her. Now, I'm not saying that they were besties or lifelong friends, but it seems like they were pretty close at one point. It's like, what is going on? Like, why would you lose a friendship over her to saying, like, hey, if you're going to talk about Caitlin Clark, that's fine, but make sure you're factual. Like, why is that? And I think Stephen A. said the same thing. It's like, hey, if you want to rip her, that's fine. Just make sure it's factual. But some odd reason, Sheryl Swoopes has this axe to grind over Caitlin. But she loves Angel Reese. Like, she cannot take enough pictures of Angel Reese. Angel Reese. Okay, that's fine. But Angel Reese isn't Caitlin. If I look at A'ja Wilson and say, if she's the barometer of the best player in the league, and which one of those two is closer to her, it's not Angel Reese. Angel Reese is a really good player, and she's going to keep on being a good player. But Caitlin Clark is way closer to A'ja Wilson than Angel Reese. These are facts. Caitlin Clark has probably been one of the best players in the WNBA the last quarter of the season, and the Fever are on their way to the playoffs. And I guess recently, Sheryl Swoopes talked about the Fever on the podcast, and she praised everybody, but didn't mention Caitlin Clark. And it's like, what did this girl do to you? Which is crazy, because I never heard Caitlin Clark say anything bad. Like, she's actually really good with the press. Like, not saying anything wrong is going to get her in trouble. He said it happened in college. No, it didn't happen in college, because the race thing came up, and she didn't answer it, because she's not used to answering and talking about race. So they kind of got her on that. But as far as like talking about players, like, she's actually pretty good at not causing any attention, like ripping any other player. And in fact, her last year in college, Maya Moore, the great Maya Moore, showed up. I think it was a March Madness game, and before Caitlin played. And Caitlin has always said that Maya Moore is her favorite player. And Maya Moore talked to Caitlin, and Caitlin turned into this little girl again. This little girl who used to watch Maya on TV. Because Maya Moore is like one of the greatest. If Maya Moore would have played her full career, as great as Candace Parker is, Maya Moore would have destroyed all those WNBA records. Probably the only record, maybe one of the few records she probably wouldn't have owned, was the assist record, and that's Sue Bird currently. But yeah, Maya Moore was that great. Maya Moore, Maya Moore, she played for the Minnesota Lynx. She found out about the story about this guy who was wrongfully imprisoned. She was able to get him out. They fell in love, and they got married. And she retired from the WNBA and just became more of a social justice person. She's sorely missed in the league because she was great. But as great as A'ja Wilson is, that was Maya Moore times 10. She was that great. So you can't say that Caitlin disrespected the past, because, I mean, she was born in 2002, right? So Caitlin was born in 2002. And I went to check because Sheryl Swoopes won with the Houston Comets. They won 4 championships, and their last championship was 2000. Well, so Caitlin Clark, unless she's a student of the game, which I think she is, but she didn't see the Comets, right? So she didn't grow up watching Sheryl Swoopes. So I don't know if Sheryl Swoopes feels like the WNBA is, or maybe they feel like when they was pumping up Caitlin Clark so hard, last year, the past couple of years in college, it does feel like they slighted some of the older women that came before her, like Swoopes, or especially like Sheryl Miller. Sheryl Miller was like one of the best players ever, and she gets forgotten about over the years, right? But she was one of the greatest ever. And I do feel like they didn't talk enough about, they put Caitlyn like up here above everybody else. It's like, no, there's some other great players that you guys really need to talk about. But that's not Caitlyn's fault, that's the media's fault. The only thing I didn't like is when they put Caitlyn's records with the men's record, saying, so now they say like, well, the greatest scorer in basketball history in college is Caitlyn Clark. It's like, you got to separate them. Like, men and women, same game, different physicality, different sport. The men's, she got the number one scoring record for the women, and whoever got the number one scoring record for the men, they should keep it like that. Because if you take a guy and put him with the women, and he can play with women's rules and all that stuff, he'll shatter the record. So, and Caitlyn Clark didn't play against the guys, so you should not combine the two. That's wrong. But other than that, that wasn't her fault either. That's an ESPN and these folks too. But for the life of me, I do not understand Sheryl Swoopes. Like, I don't get it. Like, if you should be mad at anybody, be mad at the WNBA for not doing a lot of documentaries. There should be a documentaries about the Comets, or about Chicago, the Cleveland Rockers. I'm in Akron. The Cleveland Rockers were a thing. Have a documentary about the rise and fall of the Cleveland Rockers. Like, I would be interested in seeing that. Like, that's on the W of promoting their past. Like, the WNBA, they always talk about Bird and Magic, or Bill Russell, or Will, like you, or Michael Jordan. Like, they always talk about the players of the past. Like, you have to keep the game alive. It can't be just about LeBron and Steph and Ant. Like, you got to talk about the past, right? But outside of Ant, most of the younger guys like Steph, LeBron, they revere the past. So the younger players understand that. NFL does that all the time. They talk about the past. They always have documentaries on the NFL Network about the past. Baseball would never let you forget about Babe Ruth. So that's on the W. If you're mad at anybody, be mad at the W if they're not talking about the women of the past, the WNBA, who did set the template 20 years ago. Like, get on them. But I think Sheryl Swoopes also messed up because she's banging on Caitlyn Clark so hard. If a job had opened for being an analyst, you can't put Sheryl Swoopes on there because she'll be anti-Caitlyn all the time, and they're not going to have that. Like, that's ESPN. Sheryl Swoopes is a chocolate chick. I like chocolate chicks. But ESPN got colorism issues. They like a light-skinned programmer. Yeah, they got McNutt, but they kind of lean kind of light. They lean light sometimes. But regardless of that, if ESPN had an analyst job open, but if they see you banging on Caitlyn Clark, they're not going to hire you. They're like, well, this chick is going to keep on talking about, she's going to be negative all the time about Caitlyn. We can't put her on. And if the women of W, they always say, like, we need to be paid equally. We need more eyeballs. We need more fans. Well, this is not, fighting with your new talents is not the way to go. Caitlyn Clark was a golden goose for you ladies. Stop fighting it. You can't choose who the messenger is. I hate when people say, like, well, the message is right, it's just the wrong messenger. Screw that. The message is the message. Caitlyn Clark was a godsend for y'all. Stop fighting her. And I think slowly some of the players are starting to figure this out. It's like, hey man, we can make more. If she gets more eyeballs, we all get more eyeballs. I remember when LeBron first came to the league and Cleveland became really good. Boobie Gibson ended up marrying Keisha Cole. That marriage crashed and burned, but he wouldn't have got with Keisha Cole if LeBron was on that team. Tristan Thompson, he got with a Kardashian. That crashed and burned, but he would have never met her. I'll take another way, like Channing Tatum and Richard Jefferson. They started their podcast when they was playing on that 2016 squad with LeBron and won the championship. If they were on that, if LeBron was on that team, nobody would care about that champion. They cared about their podcast. And Channing Frye wouldn't have been on the NBA Network, and Richard Jefferson would be all over ESPN. Whenever you have an opportunity, when something comes into your life, that's a blessing that makes everybody else shine. You ride that wave. That's what Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp was trying to tell these women months ago, and they wasn't hearing this. Like, women, stop being ladies. Stop. Yes. Embrace the sisterhood. Caitlyn Clark is helping you make money. Stop being jealous. I guess that's a triggering word. Stop it. Sheryl Swoopes, I don't know what it is, but you make up with Nancy Lieberman and sit down with Caitlyn Clark. Talk basketball. You might find out that Caitlyn Clark you two have more in common than you think. Bring in Angel Reese. Make it a beer summit. Stop it, man. You're killing the golden goose. And if you don't make more money, Swoopes is on you. Because you hated on Caitlyn.